The Central Bank Report 2011 was released a couple of weeks back. Since then, much debate, much controversies have really appeared on the subject of the Central Bank Report 2011. Now, to talk about the negative impact, the credibility, and how far is this report really true, we have with us this evening Dr. Prasanna Pereira, Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics at the University of Peradeniya. A very good evening and welcome to Biz First in Focus.
Thank you.
Nice to have you again, Dr. Pereira. Tell me, my first question to you is, how do you view the Central Bank report for the year 2011, which was released a couple of weeks back?
Yes, the credibility of the data produced by the Central Bank is questionable, but
in an overall perspective, tell me, Doctor,
yeah,
how do you view the
let me
report?
to first comment on that. As an academic, I don't think that we have an option, so we have to accept what the Central Bank produced. So therefore, rather than wasting time on debating that the credibility of the data, let me to assume throughout this discussion that the data is correct. So when I come back to your other question, the positive side, so yes, well, 8.3% growth rate has been recorded in the bank report, but this is not the first time we recorded over 8%. Even go back to 1969, 78, 2010, as well as 2011, we have recorded over 8% growth. So my concern is the economists, they measure economic growth in terms of GDP growth rate, which is based on the output level at present compared to the previous year. So this is what we call growth. So it's just a comparison between this year and the previous year. But you look like the Qatar has recorded over 18% growth rate. Even Iraq recorded around 10% growth rate. So I don't know whether the growth rate itself gives kind of a good picture about the economy, but it is kind of an indicator where your economy is heading towards. So yes, well, I accept it's like a positive move, but I do have kind of a reservation about the credibility of the data. But still, if you look at what sectors really grow, we have the growth. So that is important. As far as I am aware, the agriculture sector is not really growing. Like the 35% direct employment is based on the agricultural sector. A lot of informal activities are there, but that sector is not growing. But only the service sector contributes the huge amount to the growth. But my concern is the industrial sector, which recorded over 10% growth rate. So when you get 1.5% industrial sector growth and add into the 10.5% of industrial sector growth, and overall we have 8.3. But if you look at 2007 and to date 2012, if you add those growth figures and divide by the number of years, we have simply 6.5% growth rate. That is the academic perspective of this issue.
That is the bottom reality.
Yes, that is the reality. So this growth is not, the productivity growth. This growth is driven by the demand process, demand factors. When you have the increase in consumption, increase in investment, so increase in imports and export, those even the government expenditure, those are the factors contributed to the economic growth. So there is no real productivity growth behind this economy, only the demand increase. So according to the Keynes, it has its own limitation.
Dr. Pereira, let me interrupt you for a second there. I want to know, does that mean, Dr. Pereira, that this cannot be held accountable, 8.3% economic growth, as a benchmark for the year 2012?
No, 2012 forecast, I think it's already revised. Central Bank revised to 7.2, IMF says 7.5. So if you look at the other figures like Economic Intelligence Unit, they say around 7. So one obvious factor is there is a reduction in growth targets in 2012. So we can't maintain
this. What is the reason behind this?
Oh, there are a lot of reasons behind that. Right, one is you can view it as internal factors as well as external factors. Both contribute contributed to the reduction in our growth targets. So you want me to go ahead and discuss about the reasons for that?
Yes, please,
yeah.
Doctor.
So
If
the external factors are like, you know, the entire world economy is in recession, maybe downturn. So therefore there is a negative impact from the outside world. Okay, that will negatively affect a country like Sri Lanka. So the other internal factors we have, you know, the balance of payment issues we have the fairness issue now, and the post-war reconstruction issues, as well as, you know, we have human rights issues. A lot of issues are there internally. So those factors commonly will contribute to reduce the growth targets.
Having said that, Doctor, I want to know, let's take into account the 2011 central bank report alone. What sectors have really boomed in this particular reporting question? And do you think that it is significant for the country's economic growth in the near future?
Yeah, well, the real growth is with manufacturing sector, not the manufacturing, construction even. Industrial sector, you get the subsectors. The huge contribution is from construction side. As you know, like, you know, a lot of constructions are going on. So, but my worry is like we have the demand-driven growth, so which simply I can't accept. So I really like if the growth is productivity-driven. Right, this is when you increase the consumption, you increase simply your income, like, but there is a limitation. So I'm not happy with the when consumption increase, investment increase, those things are the results of the growth behind this growth. So I don't accept it. So I really like if the growth is productivity driven. So that is what my worrying factor is.
Let's talk about the 8.3% economic growth that was achieved according to the central bank in 2011. Now, how far is this number really credible? Did the people really feel that Sri Lanka was achieving an 8.3% economic growth during the course of last year?
Yeah, I came to know from several estimates that if we record over 10%, let's say like 11% growth, people may feel it. So here the growth is 8.3. Much of the contribution was from industrial sector as well as service sector. But the majority people, their livelihood depend on the agriculture. If there is no significant growth in agriculture sector, so you can't feel like your economy is booming. So because most of the people in this country, over 60%, depend on the agricultural sector. So those activities are not, you know, encouraging. So therefore, I have issue like, you know, this growth has some limitation. Even President himself had remarks on that when the governor presented his report, central bank report. So he said, like, you know, whether this growth will trickle down to the general public, that policymakers should address. Another concern is like whether this growth is benefited only to a certain income groups, maybe not to the general public, but the some kind of a business community or the upper income groups, whether those groups get benefit. If you look at the
also, do you mean to say, Doctor, that this 8.3% economic growth really did not trickle down to the grassroots of this country, those who are living under the poverty line? So those people were not benefited last year, taking into account the 8.3% economic growth that was achieved according to the central bank. Is that what you're trying to say?
No, not like that type of conclusion. I'm just worrying that why people are not feeling it. So if it is, people will, we should have like over 10% growth rate, people to feel. So another concern is whether this growth only limited to the certain income groups. I have a question. I'm not sure that whether it is the actual case, but I can put forward another argument. Like, if you look at the how the economists measure income distribution compared to the previous year, now our income distribution that disparity increase. So those are the indicators. Like in 2010 we had 0.46 Guinea Gini coefficient. Now it increased to 0.49. Basically, when it approaches to 0.5, we say, you know, income distribution is unfair. So my worrying factor is, if there is a growth, if it is not trickled down to the general public, so then some group must have been benefited.
Has the central bank report ignored several key factors? We talk to Dr. Prasanna Pereira about all this and more after this short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Biz First Info.